If you'd asked me what leadership looked like back then, I would have pointed to a flowchart, maybe a budget spreadsheet, and said something like, "It's about process." Because that's how I thought it worked. That if you worked hard, didn't complain, and saved the day a few times, someone would notice. Spoiler, they noticed. They just didn't care. My name's Eli Grant. Born and raised in a Rust Belt town where ambition was measured in overtime hours and making it meant getting Sundays off. My dad worked nights at a steel plant until his knees gave out. My mom ran the front desk at a dentist's office and still had time to pack lunch for 3 kids every morning like she was running a one-woman logistics company. So yeah, I didn't grow up expecting much. But I was good at systems. At fixing things quietly. I got through college in chunks, night school, part-time semesters, one overloaded quarter when I had mono and a boss who said, "Sounds like an excuse." I eventually landed a support role at Midline Solutions, a mid-sized operations firm that sounded like it made things, but really just managed the things other companies made. Spreadsheets. Warehouses. Routing. My jam. At first, it was basic data cleanup. Inventory management. Vendor coordination. But I stuck with it. When someone called out sick, I covered. When a file went missing, I found it. I became the guy who just knew how stuff worked. 3 years in, I wasn't the new guy anymore. I was the glue. The problem? Glue doesn't get promoted. My manager, Ken Rivers, was the kind of guy who had a leadership book on his desk with a highlighter sticking out of it, but no bookmarks. Always wore a Bluetooth earpiece like he was one call away from closing $1 million merger, even though his calendar was mostly lunch breaks and 1:1 with Chase. Ah yes. Chase. The nephew. It started with an announcement during a team huddle. Ken, grinning like he just won a prize he didn't enter, said, "Everyone meet Chase, our new operations intern. He's going to be shadowing us for the next few months." The us quickly became me. Chase was everything I wasn't at 22, polished, MBA'd, and completely oblivious to how things actually functioned. He'd ask questions like, "Can we just automate this entire workflow?" About a process that involved literal forklifts and angry union reps. Ken pulled me aside after week 1. "Eli," he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder, "you've got such a steady presence. Mind taking Chase under your wing a bit? Show him how we do things. You're kind of our rock star, man." Rock star. That's what he called me. Said it with that too sincere grin managers use when they want you to do something unpaid and unsaid. So I did what I always did, I showed up. I taught Chase everything: how to read the inventory dashboards, how to smooth over late shipments, how to actually talk to Barry from the Cleveland depot without getting hung up on. Chase listened. Sometimes. Mostly when he wasn't talking about how this place could really benefit from Agile. Whatever that meant. A month later, we closed a tricky logistics project. I'd spent weekends sorting through 3 years of broken routing data, even skipped a friend's wedding to stay on top of it. In the recap meeting, Ken stood up and said, "Really proud of Chase stepping up here. That's leadership in action." I blinked. Chase? The guy who once scheduled a carrier pickup for a location we didn't service? Then Ken turned to me with his signature tone. "And Eli, what can I say? You're just always reliable." That word again. Reliable. It's what you say about a Honda Civic. Not a future manager. I didn't say anything then. I waited. Maybe it was a one-off. Maybe he'd follow up later. He did. Just not the way I expected. 2 weeks after that recap meeting, Ken called me into his office for a quick sync. He always said sync, never meeting. Like we were satellites instead of people. I stepped in, coffee in hand, already expecting the usual. A new intern to babysit, a spreadsheet to fix, a weekend to give away. Ken sat behind his standing desk, not standing, obviously, scrolling through Slack on his phone like it owed him money. "Eli, hey, take a seat." I sat. He didn't look up. "So," he said, still scrolling, "you've been doing awesome work lately. Really appreciate how you stepped up during Q2. Chase said you were super helpful." "Thanks," I said. Ken finally put his phone down. Leaned forward like he was about to offer me state secrets. I wanted to talk about next steps for you here. My heart skipped. Just a little. Not because I expected fireworks. This was still midline, but because for once, it sounded like movement. Recognition. I know you've been here a while, he continued. And you've kind of become the go-to guy. Kind of? He exhaled like this next part hurt him. But after reviewing things with upper management, we're not sure a leadership track is the right fit for you. I blinked. Thought I misheard. Sorry, what? I said, still half smiling, because my brain hadn't caught up to the words yet. You're a great worker, Eli. Super detail-oriented. Great with execution. But leadership. He trailed off like the concept itself was too abstract for me. I stared at him. He kept going. It's not about skill. It's more about presence. Influence. You know? I didn't know. I was the one who onboarded 3 different teams when we restructured. I was the one who got the warehouse team to stop cursing out the IT department. I was the one who built the freaking playbook that Chase was now using like it was his senior thesis. But apparently, I lacked presence. You're saying I don't have leadership potential? I clarified. Ken held up his hands like I'd accused him of murder. No. I didn't say that. I said it's not the right fit, right now. Right now. The corporate version of maybe later, which we all knew meant never. I didn't argue. I didn't throw a fit or ask for examples. I didn't even bring up Chase, the guy who once thought LTL was a texting acronym. I just nodded. Got it, I said. Ken relaxed. You're a rock star, Eli. Seriously. We couldn't function without you. That line? Couldn't function without me. But couldn't promote me either. I stood up. Thanks for the clarity. He smiled. Thought he nailed it. Appreciate you, man. I walked out of his office, closed the door gently, and didn't speak to anyone the rest of the day. Instead, I opened a blank notepad file and typed 2 words. I'm done. That night, I updated my resume. No frills. Just the truth. The next morning, I sent in my 2 weeks. Ken called me, reactionary, in the exit interview. Told HR that I wasn't open to feedback. He offered me a retention bonus, one I declined without hesitation. Because if I'd stayed, I wouldn't just be stuck. I'd be complicit. So I left. No LinkedIn post. No drama. Just one quiet breath. And the sound of a door closing behind me for good. Quitting didn't feel heroic. It felt like nausea in my throat and an ice pack on my confidence. I didn't have a 6-month cushion, or a startup idea scribbled on napkins, or an exit plan involving passive income and a podcast about breaking free from the grind. I had $4,200 in savings, a half-dead laptop, and a resume that said Excel Wizard, in a font I didn't even like. I tried sleeping in that first week. My body didn't know how. So I started freelancing, badly. Took gigs no one wanted, warehouse audits in abandoned strip malls, optimizing shipping schedules for a company that shipped mannequins. I wish I were kidding. I had to remind myself I wasn't starting over. I was starting forward. Just at the slowest damn crawl imaginable. I worked from diners. From my car. From coffee shops with chairs designed to punish people who lingered. I'd bill 12-hour days for 6 hours of actual work and spend the rest of the time emailing people who wouldn't respond. But here's the thing about being overlooked for so long. You get real good at noticing stuff no one else does. Like when a vendor's invoice system double bills their own clients. Or when the entire back end of a regional distributor is being held together by one spreadsheet called final_v3_copy_actual_final. XLS. I started making little fixes. Not because I was paid to. Because I couldn't help it. Then one Tuesday afternoon, just after I'd wrapped up a call with a construction supplier who still used fax machines, I got a call. Unknown number. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but something in me picked up. Hi, is this Eli Grant? Depends, I said. Are you a real person or trying to sell me solar panels? A chuckle on the other end. Real. Human. This is Rachel Nunez, Director of Ops for Creighton Partners. Your name came up during a vendor audit. Apparently you helped rewire their whole logistics flow without even being on payroll? Oh. That project. I'd done it for a family friend. She'd paid me in 4 checks and a homemade lasagna. Well, I said, they were using manual counts and prayer. I just offered a few suggestions. Rachel laughed. We'd like to bring you in on contract. We've got 3 warehouses bleeding money and no idea why. That's how it started. Not with a breakthrough. With a backdoor. I didn't walk into Creighton like a conquering hero. I showed up in a button-up that didn't quite fit, sat in a room full of execs, and nervously pitched a basic audit plan using a borrowed laptop and a spreadsheet template I downloaded off Reddit. But I listened. I learned their pain points. And I solved the smallest problem first, their inbound routing errors, faster than anyone expected. So they gave me another project. Then another. Within 6 months, I wasn't a contractor anymore. I was on salary. With a team. My own login. And a title, Senior Process Analyst, which sounded like gibberish, but it came with decision-making power and a parking pass, so I wasn't complaining. The job didn't make me rich. But it made me real. Every meeting, every fix, every conversation, they added a brick to something I hadn't had since Ken's office door closed behind me. A foundation. And then, one morning, Rachel slid a proposal across the table during our weekly check-in. New client wants us to bid for a full logistics overhaul, she said. They're a mess. We need someone to lead it. I skimmed the brief. Froze at the name. Midline Solutions. My old company. Ken's company. The one who said I wasn't leadership material. Rachel didn't notice my expression. Or maybe she did and didn't press. I just closed the folder slowly and said, I'll take the lead. She nodded. Good. Because I already put your name on it. The week leading up to the midline kickoff felt like standing in a hallway where every door looked familiar, and every one of them had hurt you once. I wasn't nervous. Not exactly. But I was aware of my heartbeat again. In the time since I left, I'd rebuilt more than just my resume. I had a team now, 3 analysts, 1 project coordinator, and a junior associate who once accidentally sent a Slack message about me. To me. He wrote, Eli is like if spreadsheets had opinions. I made him Employee of the Month. I had structure. Systems. A weird habit of waking up at 5:45 to get ahead of my inbox, which my therapist said was either discipline or trauma. TBD. And I had something else I'd never had before. Confidence that didn't feel like pretending. So when Rachel asked if I needed support for the client kickoff, I just smiled. I've got it. The morning of the meeting, I wore a navy blazer I once swore I'd never wear again after spilling pho on it during a conference lunch. My shoes were polished, laptop charged, slides prepared. I wasn't just ready. I was calm. We arrived at Midline's new office, sleeker than I remembered, all glass and reclaimed wood, and too much branding about. Empowering innovation. The receptionist handed us visitor passes like she was auditioning for a meditation app. And then we were led to a conference room called Synergy. Of course we were. When I walked in, the first face I saw was Chase. He froze mid-laugh, a paper cup halfway to his mouth. His face went from networking mode to Windows error in 2 seconds flat. Eli? He said too loudly. I smiled. Hey, Chase. Long time. He blinked. Are you leading this? I'm with Creighton now. We'll be handling the operations restructure. Chase looked like he just remembered a test he didn't study for. He nodded. Sat down slowly. Ken entered 3 minutes later. He didn't recognize me at first. Then he did. And boy, did he try to play it cool. Eli, he said like we were old war buddies. Wow, you're with Creighton now? I stood up, shook his hand. Firm. Unapologetic. Yeah, I said. Been there a year. Good team. Smart people. Ken nodded like he was chewing something bitter. Well, great to have you back. Feels full circle. Full circle. Right. Like he forgot he was the one who spun the wheel. The meeting started. I launched into the audit overview. Slide deck. Key objectives. Early observations. Pain points. Ken kept glancing at Chase. Chase kept glancing at the table. I kept going. Professional. Polite. Direct. No digs. No drama. But I didn't hold back either. I pointed out inefficiencies, vague ownership, siloed data, warehouse delays traced to unclear routing protocols. My team had receipts. Chase flinched at. Unclear ownership. Ken squirmed at. Legacy process confusion. I just clicked through the slides. It was like surgery, clean, precise, a little painful if you weren't ready. Afterward, Ken pulled me aside. Hey, he said, with that forced smile managers use when they're not sure if they're being recorded. Just wanted to say, you're doing well. Really? No hard feelings, right? I tilted my head. None at all, I said. You said I wasn't leadership material. Turned out to be true. I needed to leave to prove it. His face twitched. I didn't stay for the awkward silence. I walked out with my team, debriefed over overpriced coffee, and then answered 3 Slack messages from Rachel with the calm of someone who knew exactly what the hell they were doing. That night, I opened my laptop and updated my About page on LinkedIn. Helping companies solve the problems they didn't know they created. I hit save. And slept like I hadn't in years. By week 2 of the midline restructure, it was clear we weren't just managing a logistics project. We were managing a quiet collapse. Emails went unanswered. Warehouse metrics didn't match. A delivery route flagged as active turned out to involve a depot that had been closed since 2019. My analyst Priya asked if ghost routes were normal. They are, I told her. When a company's been run on vibes and nepotism. Chase was drowning. He wasn't malicious, just inexperienced and deeply allergic to accountability. Every time we flagged a gap, he blinked like we were speaking Latin. Ken, on the other hand, had developed a new strategy: overcompensation. Daily check-ins. Micromanaging slide formats. Sending long emails CCING people we'd never met with phrases like, just keeping transparency top of mind. I wasn't impressed. Neither was Rachel. Why does their team feel allergic to data? She asked one morning after reviewing a progress summary. I shrugged. They never had to be accountable before. That's changing. And it was, slowly, surgically. We weren't just pointing out problems. We were designing solutions, live. We restructured their fulfillment calendar, revamped supplier reporting, and implemented a real-time dashboard that finally killed the cursed final_V7 spreadsheet. It was surgical work. Quiet revenge. Because every win we logged for their company came with the unspoken truth. We did what they wouldn't let me do. Ken tried to insert himself into our planning sessions. Started making suggestions that directly contradicted what we'd just fixed. I started documenting every suggestion, every inconsistency. Every time he redirected blame onto his team or blamed the system. Then, in our 4th review meeting, the one where we shared a 6-week roadmap for full implementation, Ken made a mistake. He interrupted Rachel mid-slide. I just don't think this needs such a drastic shift, he said, forcing a chuckle. What we've had isn't perfect, but it's worked. Rachel stared at him. Worked? She repeated. Ken, you've lost 2 major contracts in the past year due to fulfillment delays. Ken's smile thinned. Well, the market's been chaotic. Rachel cut him off. And your staff turnover's doubled since last quarter. Eli's team identified 6 separate process failures just in the last 2 weeks. I stayed quiet. I didn't need to speak. Rachel already knew the truth, and she wasn't afraid to say it. After the meeting, Chase caught me by the elevators. Hey, he said awkwardly, holding a can of something oat-based. Just wanted to say, you're killing it. Thanks, I said. He hesitated. Listen, I didn't mean to take credit before. Back when I was an intern. That was all Ken. I shrugged. It's in the past. Still, he said. You deserve better. That night, back at the office, I uploaded the full report package. Key takeaways. Root causes. Process breakdowns. I CC'd Midline's VP of Operations. The email was polite. Neutral. Just data. But the subject line? Recommendations for Sustainable Operations, authored by Creighton, Lead E. Grant. I hit send. Then I closed my laptop, microwaved some leftover chili, and watched an old episode of Top Chef where a contestant forgot salt and still won. Anything was possible. The email arrived on a Thursday at 8:42 a.m. I was on my second coffee, trying to coax a broken pivot table back to life like it was a moody toddler refusing breakfast. Slack pinged. It was Rachel. Rachel. Check your inbox. Big news. Rachel. And maybe stand up before you read it. I clicked over. Subject: Staff Transition Notice. From Midline VP of Operations. To Eli Grant, Rachel Nunez. Date: 8:42 a.m. Effective immediately, Kenneth Rivers is no longer with Midline Solutions. Please direct all project communications to Interim Ops Lead Carla DeWitt. We appreciate your continued partnership and support during this time of transition. Just like that. No long goodbye. No. Moving on to pursue new opportunities. Not even a. We thank him for his contributions, which, in corporate speak, is usually the equivalent of a participation trophy. Just Ken is gone. For a moment, I did nothing. No smile. No smirk. Just silence. It didn't hit me like I thought it would. There was no music swell. No montage of me walking down the hallway in slow motion. Just the hum of a cheap office fan and the glow of a Gmail tab. I stood up anyway. Took a lap around the floor. Grabbed another coffee I didn't need. Then sat back down and reread the message. Ken is no longer with Midline. That sentence had weight. It wasn't just a win, it was an exhale. The kind you didn't know you were holding for a year. The kind that starts in your ribs and ends somewhere near your spine. Rachel called a few minutes later. You okay? She asked, voice casual but with that sharp undercurrent she used when something really mattered. I think so, I said. That sounded like the voice of a man sitting in a quiet room wondering if he's a villain now. More like a guy who finally watched the other shoe fall. She laughed. Well, I hope it hit him on the way down. We chatted a bit. Next steps, updated contacts, our client success goals moving forward, all the boring post-mutiny cleanup. But just before she hung up, she said something that caught me off guard. You know, Eli. I've worked with guys who had leadership in their email signature and couldn't manage a vending machine. You never needed the title. You just earned the respect. That one stuck. I sat with it. Let it echo a bit. That afternoon, I had to lead a workshop for a new client across town. As I packed up my laptop, a Slack came in from my analyst, Priya. Priya, is it weird that I kinda feel proud of you like you're a victorious underdog in a sports movie? Me. Do I get a training montage or just a dramatic locker room speech? Priya. You already gave that. It was called the Midline Audit Report. I laughed harder than I should have. That night, I pulled out the dusty resume file from my just in case folder. The one that still had my old job title listed as Operations Specialist, Support Tier. I deleted it. Started fresh. Type. Eli Grant. Process Architect, Operations Strategist, Team First Leader. I fix broken systems and build ones that don't need babysitting. I hit save. Closed the file. And for the first time in a year, I didn't feel like I was rebuilding from ruins. I felt like I was designing the blueprint. A week after the announcement about Ken, my inbox got louder. Not in a breaking news way, more like the background hum of people who suddenly remembered I existed. 6 new connection requests on LinkedIn. 3 from people still at Midline. 1 from someone I hadn't spoken to since I was their emergency lunch break coverage guy 5 years ago. Then came the message from Chase. Chase Rivers. Hey Eli. Just wanted to say congrats. Sounds like things are going really well for you. Didn't get a chance to say it earlier, but thanks for everything. Also, did you know this was coming? I read it once. Twice. There was something about the tone, like he wasn't sure if I was the kind of person who plotted revenge, or the kind who just moved on without looking back. I typed back. I knew what I was doing when I left. That's all. He liked it with the awkward thumbs up emoji. then unmatched 10 minutes later. Fair enough. I wasn't angry. Honestly, I wasn't anything. Not anymore. The version of me who needed Ken's approval or validation from a quarterly review? That guy hadn't made it out of the exit interview. What did survive was better. Wiser. Quieter maybe, but heavier in the right places. That Friday, I walked past Midline's office. Not intentionally. I had a lunch meeting nearby with a potential vendor, and I took a side street out of habit. The building looked the same, big glass panels, lobby plants that somehow never died, a receptionist who rotated every 6 weeks. Through the windows, I saw a few familiar faces. Some still looked rushed. Some still looked like they were waiting for someone to notice how much they'd done. I didn't wave. I didn't linger. But I did see Carla, Midline's interim ops lead, stepping out with a clipboard in one hand and 2 iced coffees balanced like she was moonlighting as a waitress. She spotted me instantly. "Eli?" she called out. "You back?" I shook my head. "Just passing through." Carla walked over. She had the kind of presence Ken thought he had. Casual, clear, no nonsense. "We're still using your audit as our internal benchmark," she said. "It changed everything. Honestly, if you ever wanted to come back." "I'm good," I said gently but firmly. Her smile was understanding, not offended. "I figured. Just had to ask. People still talk about the report like you wrote it in fire." "Appreciate that," I said. "Really?" She nodded. We shook hands. No tension. No awkwardness. Just 2 professionals parting ways with mutual respect, something I never got in my old days. That night, I hosted dinner for my team. A tiny taco spot downtown with dim lighting, too loud music, and fries served in a flower pot for some reason. We pushed 2 tables together. Laughed too loud. Talked about nothing for once. At one point, in between bites of carnitas and sarcastic recaps of Zoom fails, Priya raised her glass. "Serious question," she said, looking at me. "What do you think makes a good leader?" The table went quiet. I wiped my mouth and thought for a moment. "It's someone who remembers what it felt like," I said. "To be dismissed. Overlooked. Told they weren't enough. And when it's their turn to lead, they make damn sure no one else feels that way." No one said anything for a beat. Then Mason, our junior analyst who once spilled coffee on a client folder and nearly fainted, said softly, "I wish my last boss had heard that." We all nodded. Priya raised her glass again. "To remember." And for the first time in years I didn't feel like the guy quietly holding up the ceiling while other people took the credit. I felt like someone who'd earned the room, and wasn't afraid to take up space in it. It's funny what sticks with you. A year ago, I would have sworn the thing I'd never forget was Ken's face when he told me I wasn't leadership material. That patronizing, practiced smirk. The kind of expression that says, "Stay in your lane, and maybe I'll let you merge someday." But that's not what stayed. What stayed was a moment weeks later, standing in the elevator of my new office building, holding a laptop in one hand and a coffee in the other, when I caught my own reflection in the mirrored panel. I didn't look like a boss. Or a rebel. Or even some business genius making revenge headlines on Reddit. I just looked like me. But calmer. Sure of myself. Not waiting anymore. Since then, things haven't slowed down. We landed 2 more contracts. My team grew by 3. I finally got business cards printed, not because I needed them, but because Priya kept insisting I looked like a guy who should be interrupting meetings with important cards. Last week, we wrapped our final midline engagement. Carla sent us a thank you package with Creighton-branded mugs and a note that said, "You helped us rewrite our future." I put the mug next to my keyboard. Didn't drink from it. Just left it there as a reminder that some people are willing to change, if you give them the right tools. The same day, I got an email from someone named Travis Long, apparently Ken's old manager's manager. He wanted to meet. "I heard you were the architect behind Midline's turnaround," the email said. "Would love to discuss a larger role in our network." I didn't say yes right away. I read it, closed my laptop, and went for a walk. There's a small park 3 blocks from the office. I sat on a bench, watched people walk dogs and chase toddlers and argue with vending machines. Life happening. I thought about the kid who used to stay late to clean up someone else's spreadsheet mess. The guy who answered emails on weekends hoping someone would finally say, "You're ready." And I thought about how far that guy had come, not because someone gave him a chance, but because he stopped asking. Later that night, after the city dimmed and most of my team logged off, I walked through the office. Turned off lights. Tidied desks. Just me and the quiet. I passed the whiteboard in the break room where someone, probably Mason, had written a quote in dry erase marker. "A leader is someone who leaves the room better than they found it." Next to it, someone added, "Unless it's the kitchen. Then clean your damn dishes." I smiled. The next morning, I replied to Travis. "Happy to chat. Let me know what you're thinking." No urgency. No desperation. Just a calm acknowledgement of what I already knew. I was ready. Not because someone said so. Because I made it true.